Fájdalmas, de egyértelmű, a kormányzás felelősségét és lehetőségét nem nekünk adták.
April 12th, 2026, Budapest, 11:47 p.m. A 34-year-old teacher named Anna has been standing in the rain outside Parliament for 6 hours. She has never voted in a national election before. Every time she tried, she said, it felt like the outcome was already decided. Tonight, the result board shows 53.6%. She starts crying. She does not know yet what the new government will actually do. She just knows that 16 years of one man's rule ended in this rain. On this street, on this night. For 16 years, Budapest was the uncompromised capital of European resistance. No asylum seekers, no Brussels mandates, no exceptions. And then, in one night, the fortress collapsed from the inside. We are calling this the Budapest switch, and the switch happened in 30 days. Here is why that is not a coincidence. Here is the part nobody is explaining correctly. This is not a victory for open borders. It is the most sophisticated financial maneuver in recent European history. To understand what just happened in Budapest, you have to understand what 16 years of isolation actually cost. Most coverage asked, is Magyar a hero or a sellout? The real question is, why did the EU build a system where compliance and restriction can mean exactly the same thing? Orbán's model was simple. Use Hungary's EU veto as a weapon. Refuse asylum quotas. Refuse migration pact compliance. Refuse everything Brussels demanded. And for years, it worked politically. His base loved it. Nationalist governments across Europe admired it. Washington, under Trump, cheered it. But the financial math was brutal. The European Court of Justice hit Hungary with compounding daily fines of €1 million for non-compliance with EU asylum law. By mid-2025, fines had exceeded €500 million. The European Commission had already deducted €357 million directly from Hungary's EU fund allocations. Source, Hungarian Conservative, April 2025. And then there was the bigger number, €17 billion. That is how much of Hungary's €27 billion EU allocation Brussels had suspended over rule of law violations. Source, Euronews, April 2026. Hungary's currency was crashing. Public infrastructure was starved of capital. The domestic market was suffocating. The fortress had not kept the world out. It had locked Hungary inside an economic vacuum. Orbán's voters did not leave him because of migration. They left him because the lights were going out. If you want to understand how power actually works, not how it is reported, that is what AXIAL documentation exists for. Hit subscribe and the bell. What comes next is the part that changes how you see every European election from here on. April 12th, 2026. The highest voter turnout in Hungary since the transition to democracy in 1990. 78.94%. Peter Magyar and his Tisza party, center-right, pro-European, anti-corruption, won 138 seats in the 199-seat National Assembly. 53.6% of the vote. A constitutional two-thirds supermajority. Source, Al Jazeera, April 13th, 2026. Viktor Orbán's Fidesz, 55 seats, down from 135. 16 years of one-party dominance ended in one night. Magyar's mandate was not ideological ambiguity. It was specific. Terminate the legal war with Brussels. Unlock the frozen billions. Stabilize the Hungarian state. He was sworn in as Prime Minister on May 9th, 2026. And within 48 hours, the new foreign minister walked into Parliament and said the three words Orbán had refused to say for 16 years. Hungary will comply. Now hold that image. Hungary, the most hardline anti-asylum state in the EU, moving toward compliance. And now hold the other image from the same week. Berlin, Friedrich Merz, announcing 800,000 Syrians must leave Germany in 3 years. 2 countries, 30 days, complete policy reversal. The country that built the wall is opening the gate. The country that built the gate is trying to build a wall. And here is what makes this genuinely extraordinary. Neither move is what it looks like. Merz cannot deport 800,000 people. We documented that in the last video. The law says, not like this. And Magyar is not opening Hungary's borders out of humanitarian conviction. He is executing a financial extraction operation using European asylum law as the instrument. Here is how. On May 11th, 2026, Hungary's new foreign minister,
Anita Orbán.
Anita Orbán, no relation to Viktor, told Parliament that Budapest would allow asylum applications at Hungary's borders. The specific goal: end the €1 million daily fine. Source: Brussels Signal and RMX News, May 2026. That same week, Magyar visited Brussels for talks with Commission President von der Leyen aimed at unlocking the frozen €17 billion. Source: Kyiv Post citing Euractiv, May 2026. The framing in the international press: Hungary finally joins the European mainstream. The reality is more complicated. According to the European Commission's own report, released the same week, Hungary is still failing to meet core requirements of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact. The Eurodac database upgrade, not done. Legal counseling for asylum seekers, not established. And most critically, Magyar has made clear he will not accept mandatory relocation mechanisms, the part of the EU pact that actually moves people from frontline countries like Greece and Italy into Hungary. Source: Kyiv Post, citing Euractiv, May 2026. In other words, Hungary is accepting applications at the border to stop the fines and unlock the money, but it is not accepting the people. Let's look at what this actually means in practice. The EU's Migration and Asylum Pact, entering full operation in June 2026, gives member states two options: accept a quota of relocated asylum seekers, or pay a solidarity contribution of approximately €20,000 per person not taken. Hungary under Orbán refused both, hence the fines, hence the frozen funds. Hungary under Magyar, accepting applications at the border, yes. Taking in relocations from other member states, not yet clear. Paying the solidarity contribution, under negotiation. Budapest wants to end the fines and keep access to the €17 billion while maintaining maximum demographic insulation. Source: Brussels Signal, May 2026. The European Commission's response: the funds will not be unfrozen easily. Brussels is using Magyar's hunger for cash as leverage to demand deeper compliance. Source: Rosa Primavera News Agency, May 2026. This is not a done deal. This is a negotiation, and the outcome will define whether Magyar's gamble pays off or whether Budapest just traded one set of constraints for another. So what is actually happening here? Not a humanitarian awakening in Budapest, not a political surrender to Brussels. What is happening is a recalibration of the instrument. Orbán used EU membership as a battlefield. He fought Brussels in public, collected political capital from the fight, and absorbed the financial pain as long as he could. When the financial pain exceeded the political gain, his voters replaced him. Magyar is using EU membership as a leverage mechanism. He is cooperating on the edges of the Migration Pact to extract the maximum financial return while preserving the core demographic outcome his voters actually care about. The goal has not changed. The method has. And here is the uncomfortable truth for everyone who celebrated the fall of Orbán.
I can say that I can be a proud Hungarian finally after 16 years.
The new Budapest is not more open than the old one. It is smarter. It has simply figured out how to get Brussels to pay for the same result. Remember Anna, the teacher who stood in the rain for 6 hours, who had never voted before because it never felt like it mattered. She voted for change. She got a new government. But the new government is not opening Hungary's borders. It is not dismantling the demographic fortress. It is using compliance as a financial instrument and calling it European values. And Anna, standing in the rain on April 12th, voted for something that may look very different by the time the €17 billion arrives. Step back and look at the map. Germany, trying to expel 800,000 people it cannot legally remove, while its courts, its constitution, and its own citizenship data make the target mathematically impossible. Hungary, opening asylum processing on paper to stop the fines and unlock €17 billion while resisting the actual redistribution mechanism that would bring people into the country. France, Denmark, Italy, the Netherlands, all tightening, all watching. The conventional story was the pro-European mainstream fights the nationalist fortress. One side open, the other closed. That story is over. What is replacing it is something more complex. A Europe where the language of compliance and the reality of restriction can coexist inside the same policy framework, where you can satisfy Brussels on paper and still insulate your territory in practice, where the moral vocabulary of integration and the operational logic of exclusion have learned to speak the same language. Orbán's fortress was loud, defiant, and expensive. Magyar's version is quiet, compliant, and maybe far more durable. That is the real Budapest conspiracy. Not a coup against Brussels, a deal with it. 800,000 in Germany, 17 billion in Hungary. The politicians say, European values. The lawyers say, read the fine print. The system says, follow the money. The next country on this map already has its hand on the lever. Which one and what it means for the rest of Europe, that is what we are documenting next.